Roll by secretary.
Colin Burnell,
Here.
Matthew Phipps,
Here.
Stacy Selner,
Here.
You're on mute, Stacy. You're on mute.
Here.
You must be
Matthew
muted.
Spalding,
Here.
Carrie Trapp,
Here.
Tony Glaszelka,
Here.
and Kathy Willis. Here.
In, Stacy will be on there. Oh, she does. Stacy, you're still on mute. There you go.
Yes, I am. I'm going to stay on mute until I'm going to say anything.
All right, but you can hear us though, correct?
Yes, you can't hear me?
We can't hear you, no. All right, well, we'll move on. Hopefully, we can get that addressed. Let's move to public input. We do have a list of individuals who have requested to speak. Individuals are allowed 5 minutes max each. It'll be for a total of 30 minutes, unless otherwise stated. So, first person on public input is Dina Larson.
Good evening. My name is Dina Larson, and I reside at 5609 County Road, Keweenaw, Manitowoc. First of all, thank you all for serving on the board. I believe yours is an important role to help ensure that the children of Manitowoc receive quality. I'm a graduate of Lincoln High School, as were both of my children. 2 years ago, I left teaching after 30 years. My career was split evenly between 2 rivers and Manitowoc, and over the 30 years, I spent 24 years in the classroom and 6 years in administrative positions. I believe that I was the first transgender person to openly transition on the job at MPSD. My pronouns are she and hers. However, this evening I'm here to talk about something that's more important to me right now, learning. Specifically, I want to address policy 2240, the teaching of controversial issues. I know the board is considering making changes to this policy, and I'm asking you not to. The current policy is well crafted and provides the language necessary to address concerns. Learning happens through the discussion that ensues from wrestling with important issues. In 2004, I was hired as a social studies teacher at Washington Junior High School by Kathy Lemberger. I was fortunate and rejuvenated. I proved that old dogs could learn new tricks. I never met someone so focused on learning as Mrs. Lemberger. Everything we did was through the lens of learning. As a learning community, the staff was using authentic intellectual work. There were 3 main tenets: constructing your own knowledge, engaging in substantive conversation, and demonstrating that learning has value beyond school. A few years after I started, I was thrilled to work with Daniel Connor in a combined English social studies classroom. We had the same 50 kids for 2 class periods. We often held class discussions, and the students were charged with finding evidence to support their claims. Students had input on what we discussed in class. I recall that for 1 unit, the students watched An Inconvenient Truth and wrote down questions as they watched. We then showed a video of someone refuting that documentary. The students picked sides and discussed what they learned, what they believed, and what they wondered about. We helped students to learn how to recognize bias and propaganda. Would you believe that some people get all of their news from one source or from social media? As an aside, I never shared my own opinion in class. Our role as educators is to teach students how to think, not what to think. I prided myself in never revealing my thoughts on whatever topic we were discussing. We practiced never saying anything that students would say. I became quite skilled at reflecting and answering questions with questions. I know some of my students were frustrated not knowing what I thought, but I was steadfast. I know that I was successful in never sharing my opinion. Sometimes we discuss topics after major current events. I was fascinated by and learned from my students as they shared evidence to support their claims and asked questions. A Chinese philosopher once said, "Answers give us knowledge, but questions give us wisdom." I wanted my students to have wisdom. We construct our own knowledge and we create our own truth. I suspect that some of you ran to the school board because you have concerns. I encourage you to take time to ask questions. Kathy Lemberger would tell you that when we had the combined class, the reading scores at Washington Junior High were never higher. As a building, we worked with students to ask questions, discern a thick question from a thin question. From the inception of our country, compromise and dialogue were two skills that helped us to flourish. Currently, we live in a time when it seems that those skills are lost. If you as a school board are committed to learning, will allow the teaching of controversial issues. Don't we owe it to the learning of our students to provide them with a solid education to help them be successful, wherever the journey takes them after high school? If you focused on my word choice at the beginning, you would realize I didn't say I retired. I left teaching. I felt devalued as a veteran and micromanaged in my building. Sadly, many of my colleagues also left the profession early. We teachers are professionals. I encourage you to seek out veteran teachers to learn from their insights. I encourage you to trust the staff members. Teaching is an art and a science. I encourage you to allow teachers the latitude to teach creatively to help their students learn and achieve their goals. The district has not been coming to veteran teachers of late, and yet some are shocked at their discipline problems. I mean no disrespect to beginning staff, but a person learns things over here. Humor is a fantastic diffuser. Engaging students in learning mitigates discipline problems. As much as I don't care for sports analogies, do you think the Packers would be going to the Super Bowl if everyone on the team was a rookie? You are charged with an important task. I am hopeful that you are serving on the board to help support the learning of the district. I hope you aren't on the board to follow your own not so hidden agendas. Your decisions and policies need to support everyone. This is about learning. Look at everything through the lens of learning. Don't assume that you have all the answers. Be wise. Ask questions. Please do the right thing. Thank you.
All right, the next individual that we have is Sue Lynn Moore.
We call me board member. I reside at 5106 Scenic Court here in Manitowoc. I'm in favor of members having fobs, allowing them access to all schools in the district. To even have a debate about this issue makes little sense to me. These board members are in charge of the district. I know there's opposition, but I think a lot of it has to do with many just being upset that the citizens voted for new board members with a new direction, including transparency. Having to schedule access to a school by setting up an appointment only tells me that there could be very well be things going on, such as flagrant discipline problems, out of control classrooms, perhaps things that the individual school administration doesn't want exposed. Going a step further, I propose that there be cameras in the classroom and that they randomly be turned on without the knowledge of teachers or class. That's probably an issue for the future. Perhaps the only obligation the board member would have once they've entered the school is to immediately report to their presence at the office. It's only fair so that their appearance doesn't cause unnecessary fright as an unknown person in the building. Let's let these board members do their jobs, get a handle on discipline, and give the teachers some support with the problems they are facing, which I would imagine are on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Echo DeGrand. If I'm all right, going once, no echo. The next person then would be Rebecca Walensky. I apologize if I'm not saying names properly, but all right.
Good evening. I'm Rebecca Walensky. I'm a parent of a Manitowoc Public School District student who's in attendance tonight. Maybe one of the only ones here. I wish more were. I'm addressing the board today because I have concerns over the claims of transparency to parents that many of the board members promised yet are not practicing. I would like to remind everyone here and all who are listening that only 27% of the entire population of Manitowoc County voted in the last school board election. Of that 27%, only 51% voted for the new school board members. That's 14% of the entire Manitowoc County population voted for the 3 new members on the school board. 14% only. That's not a majority, okay? I realize that's what voted. It's not a majority. It's irresponsible to assume that you have a majority of support from this community, as there is no evidence that supports this claim. 14% is not a majority of our population. It never will be. That being said, you won the election. And you still represent 100% of all of us. Even the ones who didn't vote for you and the ones who didn't vote at all. 100% of the taxpayers in this community should be represented. As a taxpayer and a parent, I'm highly concerned that this board has been having committee meetings behind closed doors, not allowing community access, and claiming technical difficulties as the issue. As a taxpaying parent, that's not transparency to me. There has been more than one occasion when the public has been denied access to meetings and the board proceeded anyway. The public demands access to the meetings you hold. The law demands it as well. I'm asking that both of the closed committee meetings that you had be stricken from the record and repeated with full access to the community in the interest of adhering to full transparency. Whoops, am I right? Full transparency is what we're going for here. So let's strike those from the record and repeat them so that we can all attend or watch as it was intended. We weren't allowed to. You're letting us down, right? You've broken a promise of transparency. The 14% of the population that voted for you should be outraged that you're not practicing what you promised. Your voters wanted transparency. You're not giving it to them. You're letting all the voters down. Another issue I'm concerned about is the majority of parents in the public school children would like you to focus on their children's needs over your own. Your own need to prove some theory that teachers are not doing their jobs. You're wasting our time and our money with a teacher witch hunt, trying to prove something to that 14% of the population who voted for you. The majority of us want retention of our teaching staff. The majority of us want our district to be attractive to new teachers. The majority of us want to be able to trust you that you will improve our children's lives and enrich their school experience. The majority of us support teachers and schools in their public school mission. The majority of us disagree with the direction that this board is going. Please refocus your attention onto our children and what is best for them, not what is best for you, your religion, or your political beliefs. Thank you.
Next, we have Milana Meisner. Once, twice, okay. Next would be Jennifer Gleichner.
Jennifer Gleichner, I'm here speaking as a private citizen tonight. I'd like to begin by quoting someone with over 4 decades of experience in education. Michael Casserly, a strategic advisor for the Council of the Great City Schools, says, quote, I think where boards sometimes get off track is when they misunderstand what the role of the board really is and start thinking that their duties and responsibilities really have more to do with the managing of a school district than the government of the
the school district. It's been my observation that this board misunderstands its role. The board is a governing body, not a group of individuals involved in day-to-day operations. The board is tasked with making decisions that are best for all who attend, work in, and live in the district. The board is a nonpartisan entity, and it is not the purpose of the board to implement personal agendas as policy. Hiring expensive friends to do strategic planning while slashing employee benefits and employing pre-made policies from conservative think tanks like ALEC is not in the best interest of this district. In the last election that yielded 3 new board members, only 27% of registered voters in the district voted. And the majority won the school board election by the very small margin of 1.75%. I want the board and the public to remember these numbers. The current views of this board are not a reflection of this community. Board member Phipps can be quoted as saying the following during the June 2nd meeting of the executive committee regarding a controversial pronoun policy, and I'll quote, "I'll just say that what a smart attorney will say is less is more, and they'll say, don't open yourself up to lawsuits by declaring it. That's what an attorney will tell you. What I'm saying is we need to make a stance because the community has spoken, and we want to make a stance, and we want to defend that stance because that's the only way it will get challenged, is if someone wants to sue." At that point, board president Sellner quickly interrupts Mr. Phipps, presumably because she knows that opening up the district to lawsuits is not wise. Mr. Phipps, board members, the community is speaking, and they're not saying the same things you are. 27% of the community voted, and some of you won by 1.75%. Never forget that. Rest assured, the community does not share your vision and will continue to speak out against policy proposals that aim to discriminate against and harm the people we love and care about. Thank you.
Next, on the public input would be Christine DeMay.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody for serving. You guys are doing a great job. I think, my personal opinion. Christine DeMay, 2000 Johnson Drive, Manitowoc, Texas. I have little jobs going on here, but pretty much memorized. I have a issue with the fact that I had heard very gossip-wise through the grapevine that we have a teacher that basically was telling students it's okay for men to kiss men and women to kiss women. First of all, it is not the teacher's job to be telling these children what they should or shouldn't agree with, as far as sex-wise, as far as who you should or should be kissing. School is for school. School is for math, arithmetic, reading, social studies. It is not for your sexual preferences. And no teacher in this school should be bringing up anything of the sort. As far as this is concerned, we've also got the situation of, okay, let's have the, for example, transgender, LGBTQ, all this other stuff. And no, I don't have the proper pronouns. I really don't care what they are. The fact is, we have men and we have women. The fact is that it's discriminatory for us to expect everybody to go over this way because a certain amount of the population is supposedly getting bullied. Well, in the process, we're bullying the people that think the opposite way. You want to do this fine. That doesn't mean that the kids and everybody else should cater to you. That is definitely discrimination, and that's not America. Plus, it is also bullying. You're trying to bully us to the point where we have to agree with you. And I'm sorry, that's not the way it should be. And the use already, the use of pronouns. I mean, this is a free country. None of us should have to go around and worry about getting fined or a lawsuit for calling a girl, or boy, or calling them by their given name. I mean, it's one thing if you've got an adult that wants to change their name or change their sex, go for it. You're of age, it's your opportunity to go do what you want. If you don't believe that, I mean, God doesn't make mistakes. You're the man or woman. My turn to talk. But the fact of it is, the lawsuits are ridiculous. There's no reason for they, me, that whatever the pronouns are. I'm not gonna memorize this. I'm not gonna use it. You're a man, I'm gonna call you a man, but by your name. You're a woman, I'm gonna call you a woman by your name. Respect for everyone. I also had a situation here where I had brought up, I had messaged one of the guys that I was discussing about the fact that I was concerned about going to school board meetings and going to city council meetings, and we really don't have that many people showing up. And in my opinion, basically, we need to have, even with opinions as reports that don't agree, we need to hear what people have to say. So a small suggestion is, could we possibly work that into the civics somehow? If there are civics, I don't know what the class would be called, but if we could work that in there so we focus a little bit more on what you can do to get involved in your city government, your county government. You want to give your opinion, that's something that's fine, because opinions are not voting, they're opinions. We're telling how we feel about something. As I've seen several times, people are like, well, you should go to the city council meeting. That's opinion, that's not voting. Two totally different things. And as far as I'm concerned, you guys are doing a great job, like I said. And according to the people that I talked to, everybody's very happy that you're in here, including me. So good job, guys. And thank you very much for hearing me.
The next individual we have for public input is Dana Getz.
Hi, my name is Dana Getz. I live in 1346 Westwood Lane. Manitowoc Public School District Policy 9150 identifies non-staff as a visitor and that should enter a school via the front door, register in the office, and announce your visit to school principal. In the current policy, a board member would be defined as non-staff. The Department of Justice recommendations for school states the same. That being said, I am curious as to why you, the school board of the MPSD, would choose to do something differently that is clearly only to benefit yourself, and it's not best practice as it pertains to the safety in our schools. You are not recognizable faces to the children in our schools, and it is likely that to a large percentage of students and faculty have no idea of who you are and why you would be in their building, much less having entered via an employee entrance. To most, you are strangers, and your presence would make young children uncomfortable and feel unsafe. I, as a nurse, previous supervisor in a large healthcare organization, and a board member for several community organizations that I serve, would never ask that a safety policy be rewritten to benefit my access to a restricted area of a hospital or in a building in which I serve. Every day, as part of my job, I enter facilities. Each one I enter, I am required to sign in as a guest and make my presence known. Many of these I enter on a weekly basis, but yet I recognize and respect the organization's policy and purpose of a visitor's log. Policy is written within the best interest of the organization and of the population that they serve. Policy is never written to ease entrance into a building for board members. I love that you desire to become involved in our classrooms, and I have no issue or concern with you making unannounced visits. But I do question your use of an employee entrance. I do question your intentions as board members if you are unable to feel as though you are above school policy or recommendations of the Department of Justice. I do question your intentions as board members if you are unable to enter via main entrance and provide additional security and safety to our students. I do question your motives as school board members if you make one student question the security that they have in their classroom by showing up in their class unaccompanied by a recognized school staff. Do the right thing, follow the recommendations of the Department of Justice, and follow the MPSD district policy, and enter via the main door, register in the office, get your visitor and make your presence known to school staff. Provide our students and educators the safety that they deserve in their schools, and conduct your business going about it in the correct way to ensure school safety. Have respect for the 300,000 students and school staff that have witnessed school violence in the last 20 years. Policy should never be written to benefit a school board. Policy should always be written to provide and ensure safety of our students and staff. MPSD policy 9150 is written in accordance to the recommended best practice and meets the recommendation of the Department of Justice for school safety. Thank you.
The next individual we have for public input is, excuse me, Jeanette Deshane. All right. The next person that we have is Melissa Brecker.
name is Melissa Rickard. I live in Clement Street in Manitowoc. I've been asked to read a letter from a staff member who, for obvious reasons, is uncomfortable for things. Dear members of the board, while I understand the need to always be looking at options to improve on current practices, policies, and district operations for both students and employees, I'm disheartened to see the current employee benefit plan. While considering ways to save the district money and cutting employee benefits, we're also looking to spend significantly more money using the REL instead of WASP, which is less than the cost. If we are looking to save money, should that not be taken into consideration as well? Also, keeping the current benefit plan will help to retain and recruit quality staff members. I'm fortunate to not have any current significant health needs in my own household, but that isn't the same for all staff. I sincerely hope you take the well-being of the entire MPSD staff into consideration before making changes. Thank you for your time.
The next person for public input is Jean Wire.
I'm Jay Wire. I live at 6300 Hartford Lake Road. I've been here many times over the past year, as you probably know. Every time I come in this building, I always look at that description up there. The Manitowoc Public School District commits to educate, engage, and inspire all learners to thrive in a global community. Today, I heard that there were only 27% of people that voted. Probably is not all that atypical for a lot of places. The reason why we got 27% is because the school system, let's face it, based on scores, was not good. Okay? So we now have a new board. I'm delighted that we have a new board. I think that in the end, if we all can focus on the one major task that we have, and that is to provide an education so that all people can thrive in a global community, because that's what we need. We need people to come in to Manitowoc, to live in Manitowoc, and to be able to find a job, actually fill out an application. During the last campaign, where only the 27% people voted, I talked to a lot of people. And a lot of them said, let's face it, I'm not worried about this. I'll call them the small things. What I'm worried about is I'm worried about the scores. I want to make sure that my kid, when he gets out, he can handle a job, and he can get himself employed, and he can thrive in the community. That's what we need. We need good citizens. So I believe that you need to do whatever you need to do to attain the top line objective. And I'm sure that you'll do it. Thank you very much.
All right. Seeing as how I have no other requests for public input, I'm going to close public input. And we'll be moving on to the consent agenda. given the consent agenda, was there anything that was requested to be pulled out of the consent agenda? All right,
I'd just like to say that, in building the grounds committee, Matt Phipps did a great job, I thought, and,
we would be pulling it out, so then we'll just pull it out, and then we'll,
we're not.
that's what we're doing. No, that's what we're.
But I just wanted to compliment a member of the committee, contributing some very good information, I think. Chris was real receptive, and I think felt supported in that. And we did report in the need to improve the communications technology, so that the minutes, so that all the meetings can indeed be broadcast from the stage. So that wasn't in the minutes. And say that we did put them on. Good.
Does anybody have anything else that would like to be pulled out of the consent agenda for discussion? All right, I did have one item, and that would be the municipal field follow-up. So I'm going to request that that be pulled out of the consent agenda for discussion. And then in speaking to President Selder, the procedure for that is going to be that if we pull it out, we then vote on the consent agenda and then revisit that and vote it on separately.
That wasn't in the minutes.
It was in the minutes for the
Finance.
finance. There's
Oh,
finance and
there's finance.
budget committee minutes. So I would like to have that pulled out for discussion. I would like to be seeking a motion for the consent agenda. And we have a second. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Then moving on to the municipal field or portion of the finance and budget committee meeting. There was an item that was on there. It was dealing with the municipal field. The question was to follow up as to where we were at with that. And I think that you were going to look into that. Did you look into?
We have discussed this and we have not acted on that.
Okay, so it has not been acted on.
I'm a little lost as to what did we not act on?
Just in terms of the
Taking ownership
the
or-
ownership.
Oh, yes, it's not finalized with this.
Okay, so yeah, because you had said that we had already been brought forward. So that's
Yeah,
right.
I thought it had, and I checked. And it hasn't never been pulled.
Okay,
But there was a $10,000 reference improvements to be made in one of the reports. But I think that's, I think that since we haven't really taken action, taken possession.
okay.
That's a question.
So that I would probably basically just wanted to follow up on that item. Is there anything that I don't think we need to vote on that then, correct? Okay.
Do you want the building grounds committee to do something?
I mean, you're the chair, so, right?
Yeah, but I take orders, so,
I mean, I talked to Stacy about that. Right now, I just wanted to follow up on with that. I have concern about that. I didn't see this.
So that transaction hasn't completed?
Correct. That's what I've gathered from that there has been no movement forward on that. Field ownership, correct?
That's correct.
You're gonna get
Are you going to be visiting that, Kerry?
well, and as I say, I'll certainly bring it up to the very next meeting. I think that at this point, we've sort of been left with the bag, right? I mean, the city's sort of withdrawn, and I think it was a kind of why don't you enlighten us a little bit?
Sure. So where we're at is, the city presented some 18 or 19 page document from, some financial sources when they first built the facility. They used federal government and state funding to do that. So there's covenants, if you will,
I'm not a legal person, but that's where we're at. I'm gonna read that, come up with some questions, send it to our legal counsel and ask them if we need to, because we do probably plan on some sort of modification or upgrade in the future. Does that violate any of the covenants that we have right now that the city has provided when they built it? We have some things that we have to look at. So I don't know the answers to that right now. I don't, my hunch is that I don't think it matters, but there are some contingencies that I want someone to read the documents, the legal documents, and say, yes, you can do whatever you want. If you want to turn it into turf, if you want to modify it in any way, the school district is okay. Right now, that's where we're at. And I got that document in June, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Chris, when we do bring forward, I ask that you please, look into all the forecast expenses for that field, so that we know upcoming, what may be upcoming in the future. There was a document, there wasn't 10,000, I believe it's 40,000. So I want to make sure that we understand all of the information surrounding the field if we do decide to take that under our own wing.
I think there's an issue that precedes what you're talking about, Chris. As I recall, the city came to the school board, not the school board, school administration, and said, look, you know, we really don't want this facility anymore. You pay rent for it. So we'll give it to you, and then you won't have to pay rent. And somehow it was sort of, you know, assumed, I guess, but the board never ever did take a formal vote on whether we wanted to receive it. I think there was an understanding between Mark Holtzman and whoever you know is the official of the city. But I think that was the deal, wasn't it? It's like, well, we rented it, and now we don't pay any rent to the city, but the rent look after. As a matter of clarification, so that the language said that if we didn't do any of the routine maintenance, mow lawn, drag the field, do everything that we need to do for our SHIPS program, it would cost us money. So we want you to continue to do the routine maintenance of the field while you occupy the field and your team is playing. So it's kind of an in-kind labor. Right. So there was really no rent charge to us, but it was understood that
No.
if we didn't do any of this, the city would charge us for it.
Yeah.
And so we said, well, we got the equipment and the know-how. So that was what was happening for years. We would take care of the diamond when our kids were there for the programs. When the programs were done, we left the facility and the city continued to maintain it thereafter.
Okay. Any other discussions surrounding the topic? All right. Then I would move to, it was requested that we move up the Synergistic presentation before the report of the superintendent. Is there any issues with that? Okay, then I would move that we move the Synergistic presentation.
We need to vote on.
Did we not vote on the minutes?
Well, you pulled out that one out of the.
Oh, is that,
Then we discussed it, I think
there wasn't an actionable item. Though.
No, it's
Okay. I just
all
wanna
those
make
that
sure.
I had sent.
Yeah, so then there would be no.
Okay.
Yeah, and James had also opinion on that. All right, so then the Synergistic Award and update.
Thank you. Sorry.
Works too, that's perfect.
First, I want to thank the board and the superintendent for having us here today. My name is Jesse Coulter. I'm representing Synergistic, a partner with you all for your energy program. And so first, before we go over the numbers in front of you, I first want to kind of recognize that none of this is possible without Angela as our program liaison, Christopher Ray as the maintenance and operation lead, and then Richard Peterson, who tested positive for COVID to be here tonight, as the energy specialist that runs the program here locally. So again, my name is Jesse Coulter. I'm the client manager for the program. Dwayne Tampkins is back in the back is the outgoing and transitioning out client manager, picking up some new clients on these. So I'll just jump right into this energy program update. First on the program PY1, the program here, performance year 1 started in May 2021. And so the first section here is the cost avoidance. And the best way to explain cost avoidance is the cost of energy not being used. And just a simple example of that would be you had a building that had 150,000 kilowatt hours during the base year that was selected. And then during the current year, we used 100,000 kilowatt hours. We reduced the usage by 50,000 kilowatt hours. And then we multiply that times the unit cost, and we'll just say 10 cents per unit, which would be a reduction of about $5,000. So that's where we come up with that number for total cost. So currently through April of 2022, here in Manitowoc, we have $163,285 of cost avoidance, which is a reduction of about 15.8% savings overall. I kind of want to point out the high performers right now. That'd be Jefferson Elementary at 31.3%, Rock Memorial at 39.6%, and then all the rest of the schools in the district are above 10% cost avoidance, which is great. Next on the list is the monthly cost avoidance. You see the bar graph there. You kind of see how in October they start clicking up all the way through April. And this is due to the heating season. Here, you guys don't have a lot of mechanical cooling, so the cost avoidance really comes into effect really during that heating season and managing those heating units, whether they're the boilers and those types of systems. Next is the energy use trend. You can see throughout that time, only 1 month is where we did during the base year performance year track is in January, was the only month. So 11 out of the 12 months nailed those down. And so that kind of correlates to the next page. If you look at the energy use index, that's a measure of both the natural gas and the electricity, which is put in a kVU by square foot. And you'll see that during the base year, you were at 71.6, and currently you're at 61.4, which is a reduction of energy use of 14.2%. And how that kind of impact affects looking at it from a grading standpoint, that's a reduction of 1,082 metric tons of CO2. We're taking 235 cars off the road, which is awesome. Next, all I want to go over is just kind of our future focus. Our future focus will be, we'll work on an energy management action plan, and we'll present 4 or 5 energy conservation measures. We'll present those to the PL, which is Angela. Those will be items that we're working on with me, Richard, and others to try to reduce more energy consumption within the district. And then lastly, the award, we're going to work on having that award by spring 2023, and hopefully we'll have hit 250,000 cost avoidance dollars. Is there any questions? Thank you for your time. Yes, sir.
Yeah. How much, thank you for putting this together. Yeah. How much more opportunity for this cost avoidance?
I'm kind of new to this. Wayne's been here for the year, so I'll let him discuss something.
Look, but as far as opportunity cost avoidance, I think you guys are going to BAS upgrade in terms of scheduling and operating buildings. There's still a lot to be done. Probably we finished all the BAS upgrades. That's probably the largest, most cost effective way you can use consumption by managing schedule of the campus.
I think we discussed a little bit earlier too today. It's probably getting it to 20% is like where we'd like to see it for the south, and how far north we are as well.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you coming up here and explaining it to us, and appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also, thank you, Director Erdman, for your work on this as well. Moving to the next item on the bill list, or is the bill list, report of the superintendent. Any questions regarding the bills?
I did want to mention that, in the month of June, we do additional payrolls for just the mail pulls out our fiscal year. So you'll notice that there are just larger payrolls in general. That last one on 6/24 is what we call our balance contract. So teachers are essentially paid for the months of July and August. And so that just is, we need to do that to close out our fiscal year and tie things to the correctly in our budget. So happy to answer any other questions.
All right, seeing as that there is no questions, moving on to the, we need to get approval for the bills, so looking for a motion. Second, is there a second? Matt Phipps, second. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
What did we just vote on?
Bills list.
Not the vouchers? We didn't vote on.
The payment of
Okay,
None of the vouchers.
we did?
Did you wanna,
I want to vote no.
you're gonna vote no? Yep, okay. Right, so motion carries 6-1. The next item on the agenda would be a monthly financial report.
Yes, in board book, the financial report for June was included. At this point of the year, we still have some revenues coming in that need to be logged that come in later in the summer. And we're just finalizing final runs and then preparing for audit. So when we look at the comparison of the prior year and this year, they trended very close and similar at this time period. Sort of about 82% of revenues overall, and we'll have, as I mentioned, more logged in July. And the one thing of note too, like on the first sheets, we always make, especially for newer board members, you'll see with special revenue trust funds on the first page that there is like a negative balance of $7.2 million. So every year is a major part of when we close our books, we have to make a transfer from Fund 10 over to Fund 27 to cover special education funds. So you're funded in both 28%. So that is a very normal transfer, and you'll see that cleanup as we finalize journal entries and close out the year. So that's very typical. And there weren't any other things of note at this time. Happy to answer any.
Are there any questions regarding the monthly financial report? All right. The next item on the agenda would be the personnel report. Joyce, would you
Thank you. So basically, as the board knows, the protocol now is that it's shared with Stacy. Then certainly she asks questions if needed, and then gives the note to upload it to board books. I think it was uploaded on Monday. There's no addendum this time, so it's just the original personnel report. I'm certainly happy to answer it.
Okay. Are there any questions regarding the personnel report?
Yeah, when does the new principal, can we meet the new principal of Franklin Elementary School?
Yes,
At
so.
some point? I mean, that's sort of a biggie appointment, it seems to me. And it seems like we managed to hire somebody who's right for the job.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm
Really, I'm
excited.
pleased to see that.
Yeah, so, assuming the board approves, personnel report, which includes the Franklin candidate being brought forward, we will be able to start here in 2 weeks on July 27th.
Any other discussion? All right. That being said, looking for a motion to approve the personnel report.
I move for you. for the personnel.
And that's Spalding second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. The next item would be the district activity update.
And I would just comment that 7 days on the job, I'm really enjoying this. I'm meeting one-on-ones with my direct reports and also with the principals to try to really get to know and develop those relationships in terms of so that we really start to move as soon as we can to this type of that. It's been a warm welcome. It's very open and excited about working together to again take it to the next level. So. Yeah, I'll do the same obviously with board members, so that I really know the community and I've also had a couple radio spots the other day. So I followed up on that, and that was really nice to receive some calls, we have about 67 call-ins. So, again, it's a warm welcome and feeling engaged. Great.
You got a house too.
And yes, thank you very much. So I'm hoping I'll be in a house and we can bring our dog and cat. So that's really good.
Well, welcome to the community.
Thank you. I'm excited to have. Thank you.
The next item that we would bring up, we moved for the Synergistic program update. So then the finished business, the FOBs for board education members upon completion of the background check. Now, I had discussed with President Selner prior to the meeting, and she said that what had occurred was, I'll give you a little bit of a recap of what happened. We had a motion, and it was not according to Robert's rules. So in discussion, we agreed to follow, a proper process. And so we in the last meeting have been told that we were bringing this forward. And so what we're going to be doing is how board member Phipps had made the motion. We would be looking for the motion or looking for a motion to, or looking for a second to end the discussion. Okay. Now that motion requires a 2/3 majority to end the discussion. And so I would be looking for a vote on the matter, or be calling for a vote. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed.
Nay.
Okay, I'm voting nay. So Carrie, did you vote?
I voted in favor too. Yeah, I was the one that was interrupted. I had the floor, but I was interrupted. The vote but that's all done. So I'm in favor of calling the question at this point and moving on with this.
Okay. So that would carry the motion of 5-2 in favor of calling the question. And so then we have to, the vote then would have to still be had regarding the motion or be regarding the FOBs, right? So it's just been to end the discussion. So now we're moving forward with the discussion of the votes for the FOBs. So all those in favor of the Board of Education members upon completion receiving FOBs on the background completion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Nay.
All right. So the motion carries 5-2. And that will be, I did want to touch on that there will still need to be a discussion to explore policy change. There is a policy that is out there for admittance of board members. So that would need to be, it's just because this has moved forward, does not mean that it is in play just yet. There still would need to be discussion and a vote regarding a policy change. And there still should be policy surrounding this as well. So, those discussions will be had. And,
What committee would we, was it in?
Stacy, do you have a preference of committee to run that through?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, no, not necessarily. I think wherever it fits. I mean, do we know who issues the fobs now?
Do
Is
we
that-
know, do we know who issues the fobs currently? Okay, Kristen Frey, issues fobs.
So can we maybe use buildings and grounds to look at that policy?
Okay, so then that would be directed to buildings and grounds.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that, of course, the fobs are going to be allotted. I don't care if you receive one, but that's, you know, I haven't been offered one yet, but I would make a motion to keep the policy as it is.
Okay, yeah, you're just taking it through the, we're just taking it through the committee.
It remains the same until you take it. And then, yeah, a
Oh,
recommendation.
yeah.
So you're the chair. So then, board member Trask would be taking that through the committee of buildings and grounds. Then the next item would be the second read brought forward to the full board from the 6/28 special board meeting. The policies from curriculum. Those policies are as stated. There is no motion required to approve the second of the policies, but the policies are policy 5136, personal communication devices, policy 5517.01, bullying, policy 5520, disorderly conduct, policy 5780, student and parent rights. So that being said,
This is the second read.
This is the second reading.
okay, is there discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, as ad hoc committee chair for the Student Advisory and Behavior Committee and Curriculum Committee, I would like to table policy 5136 until the next board meeting. The 5136 is the cell phones, electronic communication devices, and portable media players. The reason for doing that is after our first read, an administrator brought to our attention some probable issues with the policy as it was read. And then the ad hoc committee had a discussion about it too, and would like to make some recommendations for changes. So they have done that, and I would like for our curriculum committee to revisit that at our next meeting, which is next week. And then hopefully we can readdress it at the next board meeting.
I just wanted to clarify, about that policy 5136. It has been brought to my attention as well that our administration at the schools, need more help with the policy, need more support. So we would be wanting to look at that in committee, like, Kathy just mentioned, because of the support that our administration is asking for. Through, you know, just being honest and open, and saying they need more help in the conflicts that we could have arise from the policy that we talked about in committee. So we're trying to help our administrators do their job effectively and correctly, and that's why we want to bring it back to the board in the curriculum committee. So that is why we would like to do that.
Matt?
I as well had an administrator approach me with the same concerns that it would potentially create a lot of issues. So I'm happy that you brought that up, and I'm going to revisit that.
Yeah, and I just want to say one of the things that we're addressing in the ad hoc committee is looking at the cell phone policy based on like, the levels of students, whether they're elementary, middle school, or high school, that there may be some differentiation based on their ages and grade levels. And another part of that too is just some of the basic wording where we'd like to see some of the words in the document. And so those are some of the things that we'll be addressing at our next meeting. Thank you.
So is that a motion then to have that pulled from?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to table this discussion for policy 5136.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second. I'll do that.
Phipps is seconding. All those in favor for tabling 5136, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. So moving back to the original second read of the policies brought forward at the 6/28 special board meeting, the policies that we would now be voting on for the second read are policy 5517.01 bullying, policy 5520 disorderly conduct, policy 5780 student parent rights. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. Motion carries 7-0. The next item on our agenda is the strategic planning vendor. That is an information discussion action item. So I would open the floor for discussion. Is there any discussion on the matter?
What's the status? You want to talk?
I'd like-
Go ahead, go ahead. Just wanted to clarify what the status is of the fourth vendor that was possibly an option publicly. If somebody could clarify.
Stacy, did you want to weigh in on the fourth vendor? I know you had been in communication with that fourth vendor. Did you want to?
Yes, I did talk to him. I forwarded the board the 2 documents that he had given me. He was not able to join us tonight for a Q&A, and he couldn't give us any more specifics than what he gave us in those 2 documents that were forwarded to you. So that's where we're at with him. I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve a vendor this evening.
All right, there's a motion to.
Can we turn the volume up? I can really hear. Oh, I can hear them all.
Can we pause the meeting? Turn up the volume.
Take a quick second.
The speakers on halfway.
Something like that.
Is it on the, I think it's on the system.
Yeah, the bottom right.
On the laptop.
See the speaker.
Can you give it a shot again? Stacy?
Yes, I've never been asked to be louder before.
It's your,
I mean, if you're probably can't.
please. She can't, I just turned up the volume again. That's right. Huh? I think test it one more time, Stacy, please.
Yep, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
Okay.
Can hear you. Yep.
Yep.
All right, so Stacy, for the purpose of the meeting and clarity, can you repeat your motion, please?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we vote tonight for a vendor for our strategic plan.
Okay.
And second.
Seconded, any
No, sorry.
okay. Any discussion surrounding the matter?
I just wanted to say that while I do appreciate the effort that the fourth vendor tried to get together with us, I think that that we should not delay the process any longer. And I did tell them that, you know, there's a lot of things that they might be able to do for us in the future. So that relationship is still viable. But I'd rather us vote on the 3 people that we have rather than wait on that.
Kathy, go ahead.
I really appreciate what we had to run. I thought it seemed very professional. However, I didn't really care for the timeline. It seemed to be much longer than I had hoped for as far as having a strategic plan be put together. It looked as though it would be another year.
Who are you speaking?
About Mr. Howells.
The fourth one.
The fourth
Our
one.
fourth-
Thank you.
our fourth vendor. Again, I appreciated the way he put it together and it seemed very professional, but again, the timing of it seemed like it would be very, very long before we could even start addressing a strategic plan. So that would be the reason I would see this really viable option for you.
So,
And did you
for
have a-
discussion purposes, we made a motion to make a vote tonight. So, I guess the would we have the fourth vendor as possible, candidate? That's, I guess, just to clarify with our decision making tonight.
Her motion, I believe, was for that first year.
Is that what her motion is? Right.
Dennis, did you want to clarify your motion? There's discussion on your motion.
I think that.
Your motion is for the first three, correct?
Or if the, I guess, if you want to consider the fourth person, I think it's fair game. I want to make a vote tonight so out of all the four people that we have, if somebody feels though that they want more information, I would assume that they would vote against that motion tonight if they wanted to wait and have a more formal Q&A. But my motion is to take a vote tonight on the current candidates that we have.
Okay. So that motion is for all
candidates.
all the
And then
members.
point of clarification, it's all four candidates are possible to vote on tonight.
That's
all
one
one proposal.
correct. All right. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor of making the choice tonight regarding our strategic plan vendor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. So tonight we will be discussing who our strategic planning vendor is going to be. So I'll open the floor back up to discussion surrounding the choice. Barry, you had your hand up.
I'd like to make a motion that we contract with WASB to facilitate the strategic plan for these reasons. Number one, we would save $10,000 to $15,000 by doing so. And number two, because we have to have a plan that teachers and parents will buy into, it's got to be conducted by a legitimate professional organization. And I know there's some sentiment for Mr. Norrell, but that strikes me as, not strengthening the legitimacy of the plan. And it is seen by a good many people as a kind of a good old boy sort of appointment. So I think we should go with cheaper and professional and experienced. So.
All right, I'd like to weigh in on your statements there.
Colin, is there a second?
Oh, sorry. Yep, I apologize. Is there a second regarding the WASB choice for our vendor? For purposes of discussion, I'll second.
Oh,
And
looks like it's pretty much stiff.
so I would like to weigh in on the statements made. I don't know Mr. Rao other than the presentation he's ever made. I don't feel this is a good old boys option. From the get-go, it was, we've had all the different options and we've been hearing all four. And we even included to add the fourth as an opportunity to hear from other individuals aside from what was even presented. So no, I don't feel that this is a good old boys move, because for those reasons, for sure, in fact, I question why that would even be thought of, because of the process that we've actually put forward in finding the strategic planning vendor. Because we have done our diligence in looking into people, we've done our diligence in giving people opportunities, and we've heard from every single one of those vendors in a fair and justified manner. We've heard from the public, we've heard from the parents, we've heard from administration, all have had their opportunities to weigh in. And obviously, I would hope that everybody is weighing in based on not just their own opinions, but what they've heard from others as well. So that is where I drive my decisions from, and almost in everything. I don't just, I understand, so I'm speaking to the motion. My view on that is not in support of WASB. I had asked a couple times, and others had asked questions as well. I did not feel that individual had answered my questions. I felt that they walked around my questions from other board members and myself. She had not taken the time to look into what our district is all about. She didn't even know how many board members were even on our board. So to me, that definitely was not a favorable option. If you're not going to do your homework and you're not going to answer the questions, you're not listening to those that are asking the questions then. And a facilitator and a person that is asking questions should be a good listener. So with that, I'll rest. Kathy?
Yeah, I actually want to kind of repeat a lot of things Colin said. I wrote notes and much of what he said are things that I felt also. With WASB, I felt as though, first of all, the dollars being pretty open-ended. While it was, I think, 10.2, if I recall correctly.
10.3.
10.3.
Yep.
But there were a lot of expenses that weren't explained, so it seemed very open-ended that it probably would result in about the
That
same
was
amount of dollars.
one of the things.
Yeah, I didn't feel that way, and I felt it was very quite open-ended. I did have issues with, I too had a question that I feel as though was not even answered remotely post. Like, I don't feel as though she even addressed my question at all. And the third, also like Colin, it disturbed me that she didn't seem to have any personal information about the MPSD. And for that reason, I'm not really comfortable with voting for WASB. You know, I still personally have the rules will expect that we certain around. But that's where I come up with WASB. You know, I'm having a conference. I like WASB very much. I just I didn't feel as though the presentation was a viable option for us.
Presentation. I mean, WASB, whoever does it. I mean, these guys done these things over. And, you know, it just seemed to me that if we then go credibility into the plan, to have the confidence of teachers and parents, that we should probably have a fairly well-credentialed person, you know, conducting.
I do understand.
I felt that out of all of them, there was another one that had more credentials.
Yeah.
Every time I tried to get an answer as far as what type of credentials they had in writing strategic plans, I didn't get an answer. I even revisited the question again, and it seemed to be that they started around. I believe that WASB obviously has the experience with doing this, but everyone is going to be different, number one. Number two, I took into account that we had a guy that actually came here, somebody who was local, somebody who literally lives on the street, and there was no open-ended charge as well. We even clarified that with this other one. And he said, no, I've said, you know, this is the way I do it. I give you this information and we settle on a price and then that's it. There is no anything else. He will do, there's no looking into hours and all that other stuff. He's here for us. And then on top of that, he's very close and very local. So I would have to kind of agree with Colin. I don't think it's a splittable thing. I really want somebody who's going to be available to us right away whenever we need them, when we have questions. Everybody else seems to just not be as invested in Manitowoc as the one.
Yeah, I just want to speak to the others too. School exec, I thought, you know, they did a great
Just
job.
to bring it back on
Oh, yeah.
track, we do have a motion just to the WASB right now, so let's
Okay.
try and stick to just WASB. But is there any to the motion right now?
I'll just add that I did ask Patty for some examples, and she never followed up on that either. So that's, you know, they have this wealth of experience, and they've been in out the park for as long as they have. I think they'd have at least a few examples they could share. So that was my observation. And the other thing I wasn't crazy about was it seemed like their model only really involved a couple board members, you know, maybe more depending on how many chose to get involved, but it seemed a little bit less involved from the board member perspective. So I like the idea of, you know, all of us being engaged in that process, and I think that's.
Any further discussion?
About Patty with WASB, I liked her. She's very charismatic, very honest, tried to be to the point. Matt Steve's called me, asked her about how many, you know, she had wrote. she gave experiences of when she was a teacher, administrator. I really truly enjoyed that. However, she said this is her first year in this role, and I just, I didn't think that she was the best candidate for the position that we're looking for, because I don't think we're hiring her. I think we're hiring the entity and the vested interest in the community. I didn't see that it was there from her interviewing. At least. I'm not trying to say anything bad about her. I did talk to her on the phone previously, and I did enjoy her conversation, but I just didn't feel confident in her for strategic planning. That's all I'll speak about with WASB at the moment.
All right, any other further discussion on the WASB motion?
I just wanted to say one thing, Colin.
Yeah.
About the cost. I thought it was interesting, kind of in line with what Kathy said about kind of costs that we wouldn't know about, is the other 3 vendors, including the one that we didn't get to do a Q&A with, they were all around the same price. And so I would expect that even with WASB at the end of the day, that it would, with the extra incurable costs that maybe we didn't know about, I think it would be probably roughly the same.
All right.
Tony? Yeah, if I could just add on to that point, the way she explained that, those extra fees didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Look at the hourly rates, and then she said it wouldn't be more than like 1080, which seemed like it would probably take more than a few hours, right? Because it would take more than like 2 or 3 hours work to that. So I just felt like there could have been some potential additional charges there. And on top of what Stacy just said, the other quotes we have were all kind of the same ballpark. So there's something to be mindful of.
And I guess my question is, are we required to take Patty as the coordinator? I mean, the motion just was for was.
I understand that probably, and possibly that probably could have been a, question that we would have asked during the interview process.
What would be,
We don't want going off the information that we have presented right now. So,
Specifically, I wanted.
yep. So, well, just, there is a motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion to approve WASB as the strategic plan vendor? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those, sorry. All those opposed? No. All right. And that brings us back to the discussion of who our strategic planning vendor will be. Do we have any further discussion on the matter?
Guess I'll kick it off. Okay. I really enjoyed the interview with school exec because of his sincerity and how he said he would make it right. So he was farther away than obviously the other option, but I didn't like that he was sincere, that with the other person, Joe, that we had worked with for looking for an interim, he said he was the owner of the company and whatever it would take to get it done correctly and do his due diligence to make sure that we were put in the right position. Then I asked him about, when does the process end with you? And he said, well, technically it ends when the board approves it. However, if you need help down the road, I would be willing to, do that. He didn't say he would charge us. He just said that he was trying to make a good faith effort to make it right with his efforts. From him being that far away, it meant a lot to me that he seemed sincere, and I liked him as an option, but I wanted to see all the other ones as well. And unfortunately, I did not get to see him in person, but I could tell that he was passionate about his job and he was passionate about trying to make Manitowoc Public School District better. So I'll say to that, I'll start the conversation there.
Okay. Is there any further discussion that somebody or that anybody would like to add?
Yeah, I'll just add, school exec connect. I was concerned a little bit with the proposed timeline. That was a pretty long one too, going into July of next year, which seems pretty long to go through the process. He also mentioned that there was some question on some of the research that he had that he was using with this program, specifically around STL. It's some of the latest and greatest things that are out there. I had asked him if he could share that, and just never heard back since that meeting. So in my experience, again, just looking at it, just follow through when you ask for things are a pretty good indicator of, they really, how they're going to be on the job. So, that being said, they did a good job, obviously, with that firm did with getting an interim superintendent. So I can't knock them for that, but I just, something that I caught in the process that I was concerned with.
Stacy, I did see you had your hand raised. Would you like to add to the discussion?
I would like to make a motion that we hire Brett Norrell to do our strategic plan.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the matter?
I would like to discuss a little bit about Brett. So what I noticed about him is that he was very sincere as well. I don't know him from Adam. I've never met him before in my life. One thing that did interest me though is that he is from this community and he has a vested interest, obviously with the success of providing well-educated students that can be prepared for this community. So that was a very important point that I wanted to mention. He was very sincere, to the point, and I enjoyed questioning him as well. And I think that he would do a very good job for whoever would hire him.
Kathy?
One of the things that I'd like to say about Brett Morrell is that I don't know him from Adam either. And I do have a real concern with hiring someone who was brought in because they knew someone and that he doesn't have the education background. That does concern me. I'm concerned with the trust that we have in the community, that they may see it as being someone we brought in because they're friends with somebody. So I am very concerned about that. That being said, though, I mean, your point is well taken. With Brett is a member of our community, and he will be in the hot seat. And if he doesn't perform, all of our names are mud if we decide to bring him on as a strategic planner. And it would be very difficult for him to exist here. So, because he does live in and amongst us. And so for that reason, he does have that vested interest. So I do vacillate between the two. I think school exec did a great job. They found Jim for us, and we're really happy with that. But also at the same time, the school exec, I too am concerned about the timeline. Whereas Mr. Norrell really sounded as though he would have things shored up, and what did he say, like 5-6 months? 4 to 6. So I was really happy with that. So again, I kind of vacillate with the different reasons that I have, but I do think that to point those things out about trust and also being in the hot seat at the same time.
So I'd like to, yeah, I see Stacy has her hand. I'm gonna call on her in a second, and then I'll call on Carrie after. I'd like to weigh in on that as well. I don't believe that, bringing somebody forward that, exists in our community, just because somebody exists in our community and you believe that they would do a good job and they have, said that they would be interested in providing that, I don't know if that constitutes friends. I'll just be very clear there. Now, I have a lot of people that I know in this community. Just because I know somebody doesn't mean I am friends with them. If I, go and hang out with them, if I spend time with them, yes, that might be constituted as that. But I think that there's a need to have a very clear distinction of what that is. I believe that people within this community, whether what side you view on things, have a vested interest in our community. There's a reason that they live here. There's a reason that we are here, and it is because we believe in not only this district, or they've been part of this district, or that they believe in this community. We are here for a reason, and obviously this individual is here for a reason. So I think that is a definite attribute to that. The 4 to 6 months, I felt that was a great timeline. I noticed that the others, a full year was a lengthy period of time that I did not like to see. He did say that there would be no increased cost, so his dollar line was firm. But the 4 to 6 month too, he said, obviously if it requires more time, I will invest more time without no cost. So, it's a very firm dollar amount and willing to go above and beyond just to make sure that the product is as quality as we're seeking. The individual also has a outsider view. They've done the research. They came and presented that, different aspects that they have researched already. I did not see that from any other vendor. And so I understand the concerns, but I don't see those concerns as much as I see other positives as something that should be weighed. So with that, Stacy, I'll give you the floor for your call on you.
Yeah, I'm the one that asked Brett to put in a proposal. I'm not quite sure how that makes me have a personal relationship with him. We don't go on vacations together. We don't grab a beer. And I would expect that anybody that's the best candidate would bring forth, any board member, any administrator would bring forth candidates. We were asked, or I was asked today, if we could have a referral program for teachers to fill our positions. And I would imagine that if you're getting a financial compensation to bring people forth to this community, that you would know them. Is that a personal relationship? I will also remind you of how many people in our district work here that are from Sheboygan, and that they all came based on a recommendation of an administrator. Is that something also that is inappropriate to happen? I brought forth someone that I have worked with. I've seen their abilities in a strategic plan. I did my due diligence in bringing to the board 3 other people for them to consider. And I do not like the accusation that Brett Norrell was handpicked or that this is a good old boys society. You keep telling us that none of us as a board member have any power. Each board member sitting here tonight has a decision to make, and I hope that they will exercise that with their due diligence. That's all I have to say.
Number one is I use the term good old boy appointment, but I was referring to appearance. And this, I want this plan to appear to be fully legitimate, professionally done, etc. And I said that some people have raised to me the issue of the good old boy. And I said, I just think that we had another alternative to avoid any kind of appearances of that. And so I made my motion. The second thing is that Brett Norrell may have, and does clearly have, a vested interest in the community, but he has no vested interest in the matter of public school.
Kathy?
Okay, since we're on the topic with Brett, another thing I'd like to point out though is that when I did ask him really the tough question about why, like the financial aspect of Holy Family, and basically why it was sold to Prater and his role in that, I was really impressed by his answer. I thought he was very forthright. I thought he did what was the hard thing, even though it wasn't in his own best interest, but in the best interest of our community to keep Holy Family a part of this community. And that really impressed me. I would say, like, Jim, one of the things that impressed me too was they're both people who are not afraid to make difficult decisions. And that was really obvious by what he said. And I know that there are groups of people who will want who like put us on fire, right? Like to put us on notice if Brett is the person that we decide to go with. because he is known or Stacy has worked with him. But I don't see that as a bad thing because she has seen him in action. And this is difficult for me to make that decision, but that's really the conclusion that I've come to myself as I choose Bill. So Brett would not let us down. And if he does, we'll all be in hot seat. So.
I just wanted to comment a little bit about what you said, Carrie. I really believe that if somebody has a vested interest in this community, that their base interest has to be the public school district. Our community is being built out of MPSD. So the fact that he has an interest in this community automatically makes him have an interest in MPSD in my opinion.
Okay, I just want to say, and
I'll call you back.
okay,
So just a clarification, my vote tonight will be on the best candidate of the four that were proposed to be the best candidate for the position of vendor for strategic planning.
I never said Brett Morrell was a bad guy. I never said that there was a corrupt bargain here. I never said any of that. I'm just trying to emphasize the two things. One is cost and professionalism. And I think that we really want to maximize buy-in on this.
Tony?
Yeah, just wanted to add a few observations I had. In my own personal experience, I think the value in strategic planning, a lot of it's brought forth by the facilitator, right? He's going to guide the discussion. He's going to engage all of us. So one thing I really liked about Brett's plan was that it included individual and group discussions with the entire board, and also, with the administration, right? So the experts, right? So we can engage everyone, get everyone's input, which to me felt like the most thorough process out of all the plans that we saw. So I'm a big advocate for that. I also like the fact that he's local. When you look at his work at multifamily, as Kathy alluded to, he took them from minus $18 million to almost breaking even, which is no small feat by any stretch, right? And that takes a lot of planning and execution to do that in an organization of that size. So I think the guy is clearly competent and knows how to make strategic plans and execute on them. So I think having someone like that helping us craft this is going to be an asset. The fact that he's worked with Stacy in a similar capacity, I think it's a lot. We can't discount that, right? Someone that you've worked with, that you've seen deliver and perform is big. And then finally, the timeline. I think the timeline is one that makes sense. It's not too long. I think it leaves windows open to engage the community and all stakeholders that want to get involved. So for those reasons, I think he's the best choice for our community.
Okay.
Tony, I want to speak to the timeline part too. As a person who is, well, we all are concerned about behavior and academics in the school system, timeline is crucial. And 6 months makes an enormous difference between getting something done by mid-year this year and having an entire school year go by, I don't want to say the wayside, but before we have a strategic plan. So I think it really is an important piece to this. And again, I weigh this very carefully. The one thing that I am concerned about is that he does not have any experience in an education field, but he proved himself to me by the amount of research he did before he even came to this meeting. And that's part of what I see and wants to make me lean that way. Because I feel as though he'll try to prove himself.
All right. Do we have any further discussion to the motion of choosing Brett Morrell as our strategic planning vendor? Healthcare Solutions. Correct. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you for the correction. Healthcare Solutions as the strategic planning vendor of choice. Any further discussion? All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of that choice signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Nay. All right. the motion carries, that, Healthcare Solutions will be the strategic planning vendor, of Manitowoc Public School District. Moving on to the next item, new business an item that was brought forward from the 7/6/22 Joint Personnel and Finance and Budget Committee meetings, is an information and action. I do want to touch on that. There has been some confusion on the matter. So I wanted to clarify, and we can even have the directors that had brought this forward, speak to it as well, that this was a requirement, that this would be the new health insurance. This is an option that is being put forward. Is that correct, Angela?
Yes.
And Joyce, same. So this is being put forward as an option. It is not being put forward as a requirement that this would be moving in that direction. So it is just, it gives different people different options for their health insurance. So with that, I would like to, it has been brought forward from the committee, so no motions are required. But I'll open it up for discussion on the matter. So
I'll start off. Obviously, we've been getting a lot of emails from concerned employees of the district, which mindly so makes sense. In no intention is this an option that would replace the existing plan that we have in place. This is an addition to. I just want to clarify, it's providing options for employees that want to take their choices in their healthcare plan more in their hands compared to other plans. So it's not for everyone. Obviously, it's just an option. I would never support something that we would mandate, our employees to do that. I would like to have them have the freedom to make decisions for their own family. I would like the director to speak to it a little bit, but obviously I think there's more benefits to some people than it's being presented at the moment. And obviously they haven't rolled out the option yet because the board hasn't approved it. So there's some confusion behind it. And with reason, I understand. So that's why I would like to give this time to let the director explain it to their best ability. And then if there's anything else that we need to clarify, let's move forward and clarify that. But I just think that we need to kind of explain a little bit about it real quickly to the public or to the employees that are in question at the moment.
Angela and Joyce, would you care to weigh in on the matter?
Sure. I mean, just some of the confusion came to do with, first of all, whether it was an option or not. And, you just brought it to the committee and shared it purely as an option. That's what the memo had shared. And I think part of the confusion perhaps came in because we had an option sheet that showed basically how the traditional plan would stack up against the high deductible health plan based on the three funding options of the HSA. So, and insurance stuff is very, very tricky. So, one of the main reasons, and we didn't even know, of course, we have our insurance brokers are ready to offer education behind this, but we wanted to wait until we had approval to move forward with it instead of, putting forth a lot of education, and then that causes more employee confusion if you don't even go with that option. I think one of the other points of confusion that employees have had is like the 13% employee share. So both plans, whether you're as an employee would elect the traditional plan or the high deductible health plan, are going to experience an 8% to 10% increase next year, simply because our costs are increasing, our claims are increasing. We had nearly a 5% increase last year. So every year we renew these plans, and that's a part of that. So I think that people thought that there was like an additional 13% being charged to people that would stay on the traditional plan. And that's really what they're paying right now. There's absolutely no change in that. So it's just that an employee who would, opt to take the high deductible health plan, if they're a single plan enrollee, would pay 0% of the employee share. It would be funded by the district, and then 5% for families. So that is a savings and naturally, there naturally with any high deductible health plan consistent with high deductible health plans offered everywhere, there is a lower premium, but that is in exchange for a higher deductible. So that's where the HSA comes in. It's not for everyone, and you know, as Matt Gibson mentioned, you know, the employees are going to have their choice and be able to choose between the plans that they feel is best. We did not. It was really, really important. We've been discussing this over 2, you know, I've been in the district almost 2 years, but like since I came in the district and they were considering this even before that time, one of the critical factors is, you know, whether employees would save, you know, experience the savings by going to the high deductible health plan. So that's why I'm demonstrating in options 1, 2, and 3. We could show that in that option 2 on the 22 or 2023 plan, both the single and the family plan members would experience a little bit of a savings. So, and then the spousal surcharge came into question. We've been considering that for many, many years as well, as we look at data on a very, very regular basis. You know, our spouses, dependents are, you know, are some of the heaviest, you know, heaviest contributors to our costs and claims and rising claims. And often a spousal surcharge itself is an industry standard in many, many places. We even have local employers, government employers that, you know, charge this surcharge. And what happens is we become sort of a magnet plan because we don't charge one. And so then we experience more costs as a district that way. So, you know, we just need to cover our costs from that perspective. And we also made a very conscious decision instead of to keep that 13% employee ratio, not to charge more percentage for people to be on the family plan, and that it be just to those that have insurance offered to them. So it's not, you know, sort of adding burden to any staff member that wouldn't have insurance available to them. So, okay.
Could you clarify if both husband and wife work for the district, does that surcharge apply to them?
No, because they don't have insurance available through another employer.
Thank you.
And Joyce, did you want to also weigh in on the discussion as well?
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Matt, did you want to?
I just wanted to make sure that everybody's well aware. I know we've all touched on it, but each individual person's gonna have to just evaluate where they are in life and make that decision. I myself, right now, couldn't do that. I'd have to be on a traditional plan because I'm older now, heavier. I'm not in the shape I was 20, 30 years ago, but I would have loved to have had that option when I was younger and in great health to pay that lower premium. And I think that's where the advantage will come in. And I want to address something too, and I won't say where, but right, it is an industry standard. From where I work, if my wife didn't accept insurance at a different place, the surcharge is $400 a month. So for our $75 a month, I thought it was pretty nice. So
You gotta get it over, yeah.
yeah, right? Yeah, I know. No, I love where I work. So but the thing is that, yeah, I think everybody needs to take into consideration where they're at in life, and there will be a great benefit for having this option, but it's not going to change anything for anybody who doesn't want to change.
And I did also want to touch on one other thing. It was requested that we would be, because it was mentioned the expenses, that the expenses are, they're getting more, that it was requested that we do put out to bid next spring, the insurance policy. Insurance is cyclical, so it is always going up and down. It's just the way insurance is. Everybody has it. But, you know, they did request to put it out to bid, and our current person that handles that is an Angela, and they had said that they would be happy to assist in that process. So that is also another thing. So I wanted to mention that. Does anybody else have anything else to add to the discussion?
I'm all in favor of the high deductible, and it's like what you said. And I was stunned by the number of people who have misread what was happening. I mean, even people that did, public input tonight were saying, oh, the board has proceeded to cut the benefits of the teachers. We haven't cut anything. I mean, we've given them a better, a number of different choices. So. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if I could just add, unfortunately, in the climate and environment that we're in right now, there's, it's really out of our control, right? Just the cost going up, that's just kind of reflective of everything these days. So I guess on that note, my question, and just kind of thinking out loud here, but Angela, I'm curious, do we have any sort of, programs or initiatives that might encourage, health and wellness, just to, encourage people to stay more fit and get in shape and that type of thing?
We do, and I really would want to turn it over to Joyce. That's been, something that she's taken a lead on that. We have our Manatee Health and Wellness Clinic, which we pay a fee though too, that's zero charge to employees to go and take advantage of, like it's an additional benefit on top of the insurance. And then I'll let Joyce speak to the wellness and add anything that I missed. So.
Yeah, and if I could just real quick before she does that, I just wanted to reiterate from the board level, we all want to give our staff options, and we sympathize with what's going on. Unfortunately, we just can't control a lot of these ourselves. So we're just trying to find ways to help keep the cost manageable for everybody. So, I want the public to know that we're trying to exhaust all our options there for you guys.
Joyce, did you want to touch on the programs that we can have?
Yeah, we've done a few things over the years. Certainly one of our, I just think a phenomenal benefit to our employees who are on the plan, including their spouses and dependents, is our nurse site or on-site clinic. We partner with Holy Family Freighter for that clinic. So it is a clinic that employees and their spouses and dependents who are on the plan who use. So we also work with the city. So our employees know that they can use the clinic. It's over in the Harvard Town building. We can use that clinic for any type of acute illnesses or injuries. And again, at no cost to the employees. So that's definitely a fabulous benefit. Of course, we're doing health risk appraisals, trying to be proactive and take a preventative approach. So we do health risk appraisals every year through our health risk appraisals, which we continue to do through Aurora and our wellness portal, which is a plethora of resources and activities that do specifically with health and wellness. I know a couple of years ago, we made a proposal to the board and it didn't get a lot of traction to actually, for an employer of this size to hire a full-time like wellness coordinator to really either focus on more efforts. So I think there's room to grow. Again, all those things can potentially reduce, healthcare costs.
Kathy?
Yeah, I am not an insurance person, and there's a lot of things that I don't understand. Some of the things that we had talked about that I'd like to point out for our employees is that the HSA, the dollars that they put into that, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, remains their own money and throughout their lifetime. If they put into an HSA, and they can invest that. And so, we're those of us who, you talk about aging, those of us who pay a premium every month, that's just money out the window. I mean, just fork it over every month and you never see it. But the HSA has an opportunity for those people who are younger, who are really healthy and fit, to let it keep those funds so they're not shelling that big dollar amount out. So that was just one of the things that I was impressed by it. Of course, it's too late for me, but maybe for some of our employees, again, who see it fit to take on that option. No one is required at all. I mean, our other like standard or more, I want to say typical insurance still exists for our employees. So we don't have two options. I just one.
A question first and then comment. What is the percentage of the premium per month that Manitowoc Public School District pays for the insurance policy right now?
87%.
7%. It's pretty high. I'm pretty happy about that. I'm pretty proud of that. It's something we should celebrate as a district. I think that's amazing. You know, that's 87% of the premium per month is quite a bit of money, and quite a bit, obviously. The second point I wanted to make was the HSA account. Obviously, we were looking at options, and we would like to give $1,000 a year to the HSA account. So that would be, the district would be presenting $1,000 to each employee. That was in 2 payments. Obviously, probably 500, obviously. And then the person, the employee, could do what they wanted with that, obviously, with the realm of a health savings account. You know, so that was awesome. And then the actual benefit of the tax advantage, if a person chose to max out their health savings account, that would bring their taxable income down as well. That's another point that and that's not for everybody. I'm just trying to highlight some of the points that each person actually would have the option to make that choice for them. So we'd be providing the employee more choices for them to try to manage their healthcare solution. So that's what I got out of it, and hopefully the education will go good, and we could explain that to our employees. And if there was a problem, like direct that to HR to solve the issue. That's all I think.
Any further discussion?
I would just add one final comment. It's just that, you know, in this time of, you know, costs going up, I encourage, and I know we are doing this, but let's focus on the things we can control, right? How do we manage these to the best of our ability? And hopefully we can find a solution that works out favorably for everyone in the long run. So thank you for your work.
So any further discussion? All right, so then we do need to vote on this. So it does not require a motion or second, but it doesn't require a vote. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the items brought forward from the 7/6/22 Finance and Budget Committee meeting. The authorization of surplus operating funds to Fund 46 for the 2021-2022 fiscal school year. And the approval of the 2022-2023 student fees. Angela, if you wanted to speak to that.
Sure, the Fund 46 transfer is just kind of a standard operating procedure, if you will, to maximize our ability to be aided on funds as a positively aided school district, which would be like the whole dissertation of a long discussion plus about aiding. But we are aided more based on maximizing the adopted budget expenditures. So the more we spend, the more we're aided in the future, and so that benefits us. So what happens is we close out the year is we take a look and see if we have any, money that was unspent, and then we make this transfer over to Fund 46, and then we are aided on that money. And we're not required by policy to get approval, but we wanted to just start to share that process and get approval from the board so that you understand the function of that and how it works with the district. And we're just starting, now that we can expend the funds in 46, look at sort of some planned projects and put a formal plan together and plan to expend funds from that fund in the next fiscal year.
Okay.
Angela, would you please to explain that we're not hiding anything about the legality of making that transfer? Because they're unspent money, so I just want that clarification on, for the record.
Yeah, so it just, and just let me know if when we go through the fiscal year, we start out with a budget, and it's always our best guess of what things are going to cost, and so at the next board meeting, we're going to do budget, adopt the final budget transfers for the school year. And what just happens is, if we find where we don't spend money in areas, the ways to maximize that to put us in the best financial position is to transfer that money into 46. So I'm not sure if I'm guessing your question exactly.
Well, and 46 have very specific things you can't spend
yes,
on.
yes. Okay, I apologize.
No, that's
so it's long-term capital improvements project, and so this is So there was,
We got the,
yeah, so we established the fund in 2015, and Mishler worked to establish that, and what funds did, or what districts did at the time, because it was brand new about 6 or 7 years ago, where districts opened the fund, you could put $1 in it or $1,000, or you could keep putting money in it, but you couldn't touch the money for 5 years. So you would have to have a 10-year capital improvements plan in order to create the fund and to just establish it and meet all the DPI's requirements and have a separate segregated bank account. Then after that 5 year, and you can keep putting money in the meantime, after the 5 year period is up, you're able to expend the funds, but the requirement is that you have to have a long-term capital improvement plan on file. So we have, the items listed for our plan. We need to put it in a formal document that we will share with everyone sometime in August is what we're aiming for right now. And we'll have that plan approved by the board in preparation of adopting the budget so that we meet the requirements of having the plan on file in order to expend the funds. So, sorry about that.
No, thank you.
Matt,
Can you give an example or two of how we spend Fund 46 in the past?
And we haven't expended from it yet, but we have some, we have
That's
major
good.
technology updates. We have about $1.5 million worth of technology upgrades that we are going to be required to make on a 5 year basis. We have some other upgrades to facilities, some cornerstone repair at Washington Middle School, middle school was earmarked for over $200,000. So there's $1.1 million, I believe, in the fund right now. So we have it all earmarked for things or for projects. And the district can use it as a tool to plan strategically for certain things, like the technology upgrades is one of the best examples. If we would have to all of a sudden add $1.5 million to expense from our budget in one given year, that would be a tremendous weight on our budget where we would have to make extensive sacrifice in other areas. So when we look at our budget at the end of the year, if we're able to tuck money away in or plan for a certain amount of a transfer every year to sort of set aside for major projects, it just works better for us overall financially. So it's a really nice tool.
I just want to make a point. Yeah. I think I read the stuff and I thought, boy, what a smart idea. I used to work at a place, at one time, where if there was any money left over, if there was unspent money left over, it had to be spent before the end of the fiscal year. So they'd blow money on stuff that, wasn't necessary and was kind of wasteful in fact. So this seems to me like, wow, this is anticipated in a way that really allows us to do long-term capital planning.
And Angela, correct me if I'm wrong, we continually still put into Fund 46 too. We're not just, okay, let's all, let's just spend it, right?
That's what we're gonna vote on.
We're continually, it's 5 year, right?
Well, we had to keep the money in there for 5 years. We didn't touch it during that period of time. We plan to deposit. So we have 2 years worth of plans to expend the money. So then, depending upon how next year shapes up at the end of the year, we're going to be sort of using that fund, and we just don't want to let it sit there either. You want to start using it so that, we don't want to be going to referendum and then having $1.1 million sitting in there. So we have an exhaustive list of tuck pointing, roofing. Chris, has taught me so much about that, and Jason on technology. We will never be short of capital improvements. I cannot attest to that.
And we should open.
All right. So, any further discussion on the matter? All right. So it was from committee, no motions are required, but the vote needs to be still had. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed. All right, motion carries. The last item that we have for the is the other business remarks from the board president. Student fees. My apologies. Thank you. The approval of this 2022-2023 student fees. And does anybody have any discussion to that? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 All those opposed? All right. And there was, I guess I probably should have stated, there is no increase to student fees. So it is, it's just maintaining. Remarks from the board president. Stacy, did you want to take the floor?
Yeah, Colin, if you have any specific ones, and I really just wanted to touch on the one regarding the insurance, and I think everyone did a good job of explaining that and some of the concerns that our employees have brought forward. So that's all I have at this time.
Great. So the next item on the agenda is the future meeting dates. Currently, does building and grounds have any future meeting dates that?
No. I have to inform the chair that I've got people that are dying in Canada. I mean, quite literally, so I have to go up there next week, and I'm not gonna be here for 8 days. So after that, you know.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm condolences.
And the ad hoc, behavioral ad hoc?
Yeah, the ad hoc student behavior advisory committee will meet again this Thursday from 1 to 2:30 here at the board office and we'll conference.
Okay. Curriculum.
Curriculum, we do have a meeting coming up July 19th. That's what I thought was July 19th. Yep. 5 o'clock. Sorry.
And personnel.
We don't have a personnel committee meeting as of yet, I don't believe.
Correct.
Okay, and we will have another executive committee meeting, but that has yet to be scheduled.
And finance, yeah, we just had our monthly meeting primarily. Do we have more? We don't have any more for the rest of the month.
So we had talked about doing next week, Wednesday, July 20th, for the next round of budgets and for a couple of things.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yep.
I was thinking 5:30. I'll send an invite out if that's all right, and send it out right away.
All right, so we'll be meeting 5:30 on the 20th of July. Then a different time.
I'm actually gonna be in the air at 5:30.
In the air.
Like I'm on an airplane.
All right.
All right, yeah. Well, I'm perfectly open to that time. Kathy, do you have any times that
I can.
yeah?
Yeah, in the afternoon.
All right. So
Any of this for finance?
finance. How about we'll put something out to get 3 dates and choose from there. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Totally fine. All right. So to be determined on finance. And then the next one would be, are we having a special meeting for the month of July? Stacy, do you foresee any need or reason that we would be wanting to have that special meeting that we normally would have had?
Usually we only have that meeting due to hirings. So I would defer to Joyce on that if she anticipates that we're going to have some.
If I could respectfully ask the board that even if that's the only agenda item, there will, we definitely have positions that we are continuing to recruit and interview. So it is likely that we will have new hires to bring forward. Excited.
26th, okay. Is everybody good with the 26th?
Yeah.
I understand. So,
And I would like to be able to add the tabled policy to that meeting also. So
sure. All right. Any other,
What time are we looking at on the 26th?
Joyce, do you have a time in mind? Stacy, do you have a time in mind that you would like to propose?
I'd like to be a little bit early.
Yeah, I'm available. I just can't be in the morning, so.
Yeah, maybe like 4. That works.
All right. Okay. So 4 p.m. on the 26th, special meeting regarding the items just discussed. All right. Then that concludes. We would be looking for we are going to be looking to convene into closed session. That would require a first and second motion. Is there and a roll call vote? The spiel. All right. The Board of Education will vote to convene in closed session for the purpose of the following matter: considering the employment, promotion, compensation, performance evaluation data of a public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility. This meeting is authorized pursuant to section 19.85, subsection 1, subsection C of Wisconsin statutes. Looking for a motion. Gary Trask, motion. Second. Tony Vasilica. All those in favor signify by saying, with the roll call vote, Matt Phipps.
President, can I make one comment before we go? I just want to thank I just wanted to thank the people that were here. Sorry, everybody. I do appreciate the honesty.
I agree.
Good one. Okay, sorry.
All right, Matt Phipps.
Here. Oh, yes, yes.
Or usually make this, don't you? Sorry, I'm stepping on toes.
Do you want to do the minute?
No, I apologize. All right, I'll shoot.
Alan Brunel,
Aye.
Matthew Novella, Stacy Feldner,
Aye.
Matthew Salton,
Aye.
Harry Trask, Cody Leffeller,
Here.
and Kathy Bose. Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, okay.
I tried, yeah.